Here's a 5-minute presentation on how I typically share how the improvement gap methodology works for potential clients or decision makers. I know a lot of people do satisfaction studies and they typically just do that, just measure satisfaction. I'm using a scale of 0 to 10 here for today's example. I'm going to use 15 different areas or metrics as the example. Most people, if they saw this, would say our efforts need to be focused toward improving A and B because they felt really low in satisfaction. But we have to ask ourselves, how important were these areas to the respondents? So let's add that to the equation. So now we have a new axis here, Y, which measures importance as well, which changes our analysis. The next thing we want to do is don't forget to get your overall importance and satisfaction measurement so that when we do analyses, we have some form of context versus the overall averages. And I know what a lot of you are thinking is that this is going to be a quadrant analysis. That's not going to be the case. So let's establish some satisfaction goals. So we first have to ask ourselves, if something is of the highest importance in measurement, what do we want to deliver in satisfaction? In this instance, we're talking about a 10 on a scale of 0 to 10. It's easy, right? Well, we want to give a 10 in satisfaction if it's that important to someone. So that's one end of our goal line. Now we talk about the other end of the spectrum, 0 in importance. If something's not important at all, what do we want to deliver in satisfaction? I've had some people tell me, well, we always want to deliver a 10, and that's important to us. Well, we'd be back to square one in terms of rudimentary satisfaction measurements. And it's also not a very efficient way to be improving areas for your business products or services, because that's a lot of resources dedicated to delivering a 10 across the board, even if things are not important. Then we have the other end of the spectrum where someone says, well, if it's a 0 in importance, we can deliver a 0 in satisfaction. But did you hear what I just said? It's okay to deliver a 0 in satisfaction? I don't like the idea of that. That's where I say the midpoint is probably our best point in terms of lowest of importance to deliver in satisfaction. You never want to deliver less than mediocre satisfaction, even if it's not that important. So now we have two ends of the scale in measurement, and this gives us a line, a goal line. If it falls here in importance, this is what we should probably deliver in satisfaction. The next thing we need to do is measure those gaps. And I provided an equation here that tells you how to measure where it fell to where we'd like to see it fall. And that distance already, you can see A has a big distance, B and D have really big distances as well, and you have O, which is falling on the other side of the line. Now I like to convert it through the magic of PowerPoint. Happens just like that, and now we can see the scores, the gap scores for every one of our 15 metrics that we have here, including our overall average X. I like to re-rank these because it's easier just to look at and evaluate. The first thing I want to point out is not all gap measurements are equal. Let's just use the example here, K, H, and C. Now you can see they all have a negative 2.0 gap. Now, if you had these and you were planning service improvements or employee improvements, whatever it is, which one would you prioritize first as improving? Some would say, well, all of them. They're all equal in their area of improvement. Well, let's not forget the original importance scores. You can see K had an 8.0 for the average importance score, whereas C had a 1.0. I don't want to discount the original importance scores because I think those should weigh heavily into the equation, and that's why I consider this the ultimate tiebreaker, and not just a tiebreaker for legitimate ties and gaps, but it also helps scale toward all improvement priorities across the board. So you can see here there's a full bar for every one of our measurements here, and I'm calling those the improvement scores. So then we do another equation where we subtract gap from the original importance score. Now we have our new improvement scores. And then lastly, re-rank them. You can prioritize, and you can see at the top here, we would best be served if we improved D, E, J, B, all the way down the list. and you can feel with confidence that you've incorporated the right amount of gap as well as the importance measurements that I think supersede those original satisfaction measures. For any additional details on how I came up with this method, or anything in terms of formulas or additional examples, feel free to visit the website or the website for Quarks.com that I have posted here.